I have recently been thinking about this idea that some people say about their own selves and some people say about other people, that there is something inherently wrong with them. There's something wrong with that person. And when I go back in my life, when I think about the hardest times in my life, my childhood, my teen years, I remember getting that message from the outside world that there was something wrong with me. There was something off about me. There was something wrong with my basic essence. And I remember being so absolutely offended by that idea. And I didn't accept it. And what I mean by not accepting it is I knew there was nothing wrong with me. I knew that in my core, the essence of who I was, the me that I defined as me on the inside, was perfectly fine. It was okay. And that's not to say my behavior wasn't off, some of my thoughts weren't off. I was kind of screwed up in some ways, and I had a lot of feelings that didn't feel on, as it were, didn't feel okay. I felt lonely and frustrated and angry and sometimes jealous, envious, sad a lot, anguished at points. I felt rejected and abandoned. I sometimes felt mean. I saw myself do mean things. I saw myself do things that were even self-destructive sometimes. But all of that, I saw that as outside of the essence of me. And so how did I define all these things outside of me? Where did they come from? Why was this? How did I sort of formulate a conception of myself? And what I saw, how I conceived of the world was screwed up around me. My parents were screwed up. To me, that was just obvious. They were screwed up. My school system was screwed up and confused and horrible. The teachers were sadistic and nasty, stupid sometimes. The other kids were mean and cruel and rejecting, and they formed cliques. And sometimes cliques by their race, by their religion, gender cliques, by their socioeconomic status. Often I just didn't fit in. Mostly I just didn't fit in. And I didn't take this as a reflection of the essence of me. And in fact, when people did suggest there was something wrong with me, when my mother suggested there was something wrong with me, she liked that idea from the very, very beginning. My dad in some ways too. And he even said it as I got older. There's something wrong with you. You're up. ... You're not this. You're not that. When my teachers said it, critiqued me in their little write-ups, when other students said it by their actions or by pulling away in different ways, it hurt. But to me, it was an indicator that I had to get away from these people, that these people weren't good for me, that they were trying to kill me. And what happened to me in that basic belief that there was something okay about me was that I had to figure out how to survive on my own. I had to come up with strategy to get out. I couldn't get under their thumb. And that's not to say I didn't try to fit in. I surely did try. Sometimes, I was even marginally good at it in some ways. But there were some things that would never allow me to fit in. I was too small for too long. I was too this. I was too that. I was too outspoken. I was too original. I was too different. But really the bottom line is, and sometimes I was too angry. Sometimes I was very rude. Sometimes I was really rude in class. Or I made jokes, or I didn't listen to the teacher. Sometimes, some ways this made me more popular, in some ways it made me less popular. But the bottom line was the fact that I thought I was okay, that I knew I was okay, that there was nothing fundamentally wrong with me on the inside, put me at odds with a lot of people in my life. They saw me as a rebel. I saw them as sick. They saw me as someone who was bucking their authority. I saw them as being authoritarian and not being valid authority figures at all, not role models. And they didn't like me for it. And I think the big reason is that they couldn't change me. They couldn't get to the basic essence of what it was that was me and bend it to their will, make me what they wanted me to be. They couldn't kill my spirit to the degree that they wanted to. And I think some of them wanted to kill it all the way. They would have been happy if I'd just been a completely domesticated herd animal, a zombie that didn't think at all, did exactly what they said, didn't feel, didn't conceptualize anything outside of what they considered to be okay, just accepted what they said. And I saw a lot of other kids that did think there was something wrong with them. They believed it. They bought into the narrative, this dominant, oppressive narrative of their parents, of the school, of society. And I saw what happened to them. Some of my friends, I saw what happened to them. I saw what happened to people all around me. In a way, I was an anthropologist in this world that I was living in, this family system, this culture that I was living in, this school system, the neighborhoods that I lived in. And now I reflect back on it, decades later. My childhood ended, well, actually, it's funny. I went to college 30 years ago. That's when I started my freshman year. So I would say in a way, in a certain very key societal way, my childhood ended 30 years ago. So I've had 30 years to reflect on this. And when I saw some of the things that were, when people thought there was something wrong with them, when they believed that narrative, that there was something wrong with them, as opposed to, these people have done something to me and I am reacting to it in a way that they don't like, or my basic essence of truth and healthiness is something that rubs them the wrong way. When they didn't realize that at some intuitive level, even at maybe even an unconscious level, they were open to being manipulated. They were open to being hurt. Quite a few people that I knew ended up getting into psychiatry. When people thought there was something wrong with them, it was very easy for psychiatry to get their hooks into people, to give them a diagnosis about what was wrong with them. I even have seen people, I knew people, and I see people a lot in my work, all those 10 years when I was a therapist and all those years afterwards, making films about major mental illness and things like that. Words that I don't even believe in, but I just use because people sometimes don't even know what I'm talking about unless I use those words. Well, I've seen people who not only accepted their diagnosis, but say they liked it. They said it helped them understand themselves better. They said things like, I am bipolar, I am borderline, I am schizophrenic. It's like that, not that I have been diagnosed with, or I have been labeled with, or they called me this, they labeled me with this. Instead, I am this. This is who I am. And it was, I've heard many people say it. I don't agree with it. I respect their right to believe it, to think it. And sometimes I've worked with people who said this, and I tried to work with them as best I could, being on their wavelength or trying to get on it. But it's like when people say, I am bipolar, I am schizophrenic, I am borderline, I am OCD, I am. It's like they accepted that narrative about them, that there was something pathological about the essence of who they are, and that therefore it's incumbent on this system that has labeled them to fix them or to do something with them. And often it was like an open door to take medications. Like, okay, not only do we have a label for you, but we have medications that will fix you. We have brain treatments. We even have electricity in your brain. We will lock you up when you do things that, because of who you are, that don't fit in, until we can fix you to make you who you need to be in order to fit, however marginally, into society. Well, I think of my time as a therapist. I think of honoring people's true selves as a therapist. When people came into my office and they believed there was something inherently wrong with them, and from the get-go, to the ability, to the degree that I felt they could hear it, and sometimes I pushed that limit pretty far, I took a strong stand that there was nothing inherently wrong with them. That anything that they were going through, anything that they felt was really off about them, people who believed there was something wrong about their essence, the basic essence of their soul, personality, something like that, my attitude that I explained was, this is something outside of you. This is what happened to you. This is what society, often predominantly your family system, your parents who had the most power over you, more than anyone ever will have in your life, they did bad things to you. They screwed you up. They raised you in an environment where you weren't allowed to be you. And the problems that you have, even if you believe it's something inherently wrong with you, it isn't inherently wrong. And there may be ways to heal it. We can try. And this is what I would say, and this is what I've seen again and again. It's hell. Healing is hell. That's been my experience. Healing the parts of me that were screwed up by this outside world. It's been hell. Having more of a connection with my true self mitigates that hell, makes it more worth it, gives me more tolerance to be able to suffer through it. A lot of real suffering. Suffering leading to grieving. And what's below suffering is being out of touch with even how screwed up I have been. Going through the suffering, having the faith in myself, the faith in the true healthiness of me that I will make it through. And as a therapist, being a person who sometimes reflected that back to people who didn't have much of a true self to fall back on. They were much more hurt than I had ever been. And so I could be the one who instigated maybe or inspired and said, this is who your real true self is. There is one, and the stuff you're going through, the suffering you're going through is you slowly coming back to yourself. And when you get into grieving, it may feel very, very painful, but this is a beautiful thing and you're fortunate. You're like a foot that has been turned on its side for too long and it fell asleep and you felt nothing. You lost yourself, you lost your foot, but you can't walk on it. You can't use yourself. If you walk on that foot that is asleep, it will break. And if you want to turn it back to normal, into a normal position, first it's going to tingle a little bit, not feel terribly bad, and then guess what? Hell is coming. It's going to hurt like anything. You're going to want to put it back to make it go to sleep. But no, if you want to ever be able to use your foot again, you have to suffer through the pain, the torment, knives and pins and needles being stuck in your foot so that it can wake up and be usable again. So maybe, hopefully in my videos, I can share something that can reflect back to people that there isn't inherently anything wrong with the basic part of who they are, and that the more they heal their traumas, the more they can free their true self, the less susceptible they will be to believing that there's anything wrong with them, and the more that they can develop and grow and nurture into a more full self-actualized true self that can then go forward into the world and do the same for others.